Hey, Plumber Tom here. If you're studying from the Mathematics for Plumbers and Pipefitters book, you've come to the right place. I'm glad to help you with your understanding. Don't forget to check in the description below this video for access to books and resources that will help you with your understanding. There are online courses and other things that you can take that will help you prepare for a state test. When you purchase from those links, you're helping me to be able to create more great content. Thanks for watching. Hello, thank you for joining me for this presentation from Mathematics for Plumbers and Pipefitters. My name is Thomas Hicken, and this presentation is about Unit 3, which is solving formulas and equations. So let's get started. Let's start off with a question then. What is the difference between a formula and an equation? Well, let's maybe focus on an equation first. An equation is any number of things that could be on either side of the equal sign. We talked about the equal sign in a previous presentation, right? You can have variables and numbers, that means letters and numbers on one side or on the other. But ultimately, whatever goes into them has to be the same when they're on either side of the equal sign. This is an equation. And a formula is focused on one particular unknown value. So we're going to be solving to find out one thing. That means we're going to have an individual letter on one side of the equation, and everything else on the other side of the equation is equal to that, but it's going to help us to find out what that is. Does that make sense? Let's try this out. So here's an example of a formula that the book gives. We have C, that's circumference, equals pi, I'm going to just type this in as 3.14, times D, which is the diameter. This is a formula. It can help us to solve for the circumference on any circle of any size, and what we need is the diameter. That will give us the circumference. The text then says, let's say that the diameter is 3. We can substitute 3 for the diameter in this equation, and we will have 3.14 times d equals the circumference. So let's do the math. And the circumference is 9.42. We have been able to solve this formula by substituting the value that we know and coming up with an answer. As we continue our studies in mathematics for plumbers and pipefitters, we will be using a lot of formulas, and we will need to be able to solve those formulas in that similar way, or sometimes we need to be able to rearrange the formula so that we can use what we know to find what we don't know. For example, let's say I have a formula that is C equals P times D, and what I know is I have C and I have D, but I don't know what P is. Well, let's rearrange things a little bit. I want to get P all by itself, and P is now multiplied by D. So if I do the opposite and say I'm going to also divide by D, well, that should eliminate D on the right side of the equation, but anything I do on the right side of the equation I should also do on the left side of the equation, and therefore I have divided both sides by D. If we examine our two D's on the right side of the equation, D divided by D, well, this is the same as any number over itself equals 1. So basically we just have 1. And let's substitute that into our equation. So we have C divided by D equals P times 1. In the end, P times 1 is P, so let's just drop that times 1 thing, and look what we have created. C divided by D equals P. We have rearranged this formula to solve for a different unknown within that formula. This is the sort of thing we will be doing with the formulas we are given in Mathematics for Plumbers and Pipefitters over and over. So we just want to make sure you're familiar with this. So in this process of rearranging a formula to solve for what we need to know, please remember that to get your variable alone, you may need to use the opposite operator. So in this example, we had to divide because D was being multiplied. So the opposite of multiply is divide. If it was added, we would subtract. If it was subtracted, we would add. So again, using the opposite on both sides of the equation, we can eliminate what we don't need and get variables by themselves. This also applies to if we have something that is squared on one side of the equation. we can take the square root of both sides and get that variable by itself. Okay, let's try rearranging this formula that we're going to use quite often. This is the area of a circle. Area equals pi, that's 3.14 times the radius squared. Let's say that I know what the area is, but I don't know what the radius is, and I'm trying to find that. We can rearrange this formula and solve for the radius, given that we know the area. The radius is being multiplied by pi, or 3.14, so let's divide both sides of the equation by 3.14, and that will eliminate the 3.14 or pi on the right side of the equation. So now I have a divided by pi equals radius squared. I want to get that r all by itself, so my next step would be, let's take the square root of both sides of the equation, and that way I can eliminate the r times r on the right side, and we will finally have a formula that we can use to find the radius if we know the area. So now I know if I want to get the radius and I know the area, I can take the square root of the area divided by pi, and I'll know my radius. Alright, so that's what they cover in Unit 3. I've covered those main points. If you read through the text, it goes on for several pages and they meander about a little bit, but the point is what I've just explained to you. So let's do a little bit of practice. I'm going to put practice problems up on the screen. I want you to work them, and some of these you might have to rearrange a bit of a formula to get the answer, to find what we're looking for. Okay, practice problems. Here we go. Nice job on the practice problems, guys. Hopefully that helps to sharpen your ability to use a formula and rearrange where necessary to find what you need to know. Don't forget to do the 10 exercise problems at the end of Unit 3. That does it for Mathematics for Plumbers and Pipefitters Unit 3, and I'll see you next time.